The first and best victory is to conquer self. Welcome to the Conqueror Approach, a journey of self-mastery. To cultivate our mind, body, spirit, financial literacy, and allow our light to shine upon the world. Brought to you by me, your host, U.S. Navy submarine veteran and entrepreneur, Musa Mikkel. Let's conquer. Right. Thank you, man. I appreciate you again for letting us connect and letting us do this and letting the world hear you a little bit. I do appreciate you and appreciate your time, man. Hey, man.
I appreciate you for doing this.
I'm just trying to find great guys like you to get on this podcast and just share a lot of the wisdom and knowledge that you've learned over time. But before we get into all that, just let us know a little bit about you and your background, where you're from, where you're located, so we have a sense of who you are and your geography a little bit.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Idaho. Spent a lot of my time growing up in nature, exploring like the vast amount of forests and mountains in Idaho, a lot of the time on a dirt bike. So that was just really, I think, formative way of growing up for me, and has really contributed to the person that I am today. I really, really enjoy and value being out in nature, and the way I view our relationship and my relationship with the environment has certainly been shaped by my upbringing so close to nature. But I moved out to California about 4 years ago to pursue a career in the production industry, doing video and photo, and got into that. I've been doing drone work for the last 2 years on like Netflix shows, commercials, that type of stuff. And through doing that, actually achieving that goal, I started to realize that like my health and happiness are the most important things to me. So have since the beginning of 2020 really started to go headfirst into making a shift into mindset and wellness coaching. I just really want to put out into the world what I found valuable in my own life and what has helped me to cope with the, let's call it the onslaught of technological advancement. It's a lot to deal with, and I feel like a lot of people don't have the tools to adequately go about their daily lives without being swayed or distracted by a lot of these things that we now take for granted and have integrated our lives and are not using them intentionally. And I feel like that has made a profound impact in my life, starting to pay attention to how I'm using technology, and more than that, pay attention to my relationship with myself. So that's where like the mindset and the wellness portion of what I'm doing and what I'm coaching my clients on has to deal with. So for the foreseeable future, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I could not be more excited about it. So
that's awesome, man. You said an important thing about technology. It could be such a powerful tool in helping us, connect like how we're doing right now, and just helping you or your clients, and just the convenience portion can be definitely positive, but so much distraction, so much marketing, everywhere we go, from our phones, social media, TV, commercials, they're all over the place. Billboards. Vegas, we have a ton of billboards. So everywhere you're seeing something.
Yeah,
so
it's like
all
Vegas
the different
is half billboard.
Yeah, pretty much. It's all bright lights and billboards.
Yeah, man.
But that's awesome, man. Idaho. How's it growing up in Idaho? I don't know much about Idaho. Is it true it's all about potatoes up there, or is it more than that?
Well, it does say on the license plate, and I still got my license plate. It does say famous potatoes on the license plate. I definitely,
nice.
I think it's kind of funny. My dad, he still works. He works for like don't want to go too deep into it, but he works for like like food processing facilities. He designs all of the layouts of the machinery that processes the foods, and he worked for the longest time at Simplot doing that. And Simplot is the largest grower and producer of potatoes in the U.S., I believe. So yeah, it's kind of funny. It's just very like quintessential Idaho. Like my dad processed potatoes, basically.
So you were the norm over there then, huh?
Yeah,
The
yeah. But
stereotypical Idaho family.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, Idaho is also called the gem state. It's really a lot of just undeveloped, just beautiful wilderness.
Hmm.
And a lot of it's just untouched, and a lot of it you can't get to unless you have a plane, a helicopter, or are willing to go like deep, like backcountry, either like four wheeling, dirt bike riding, stuff like that. So it's just this untouched gem, really. And
Hmm.
um, Idahoans have a like a running joke. A lot of like people from Utah and Texas and California have started to sell their property in those states because they're getting too populated and congested and things like that. And the running joke with a lot of Idahoans is don't tell people about Idaho. Idaho's not that great a place, because all these people are moving into the state, and I feel like that's the one of the only things I hear my
Hmm.
parents complain about is like, oh man, these Californians like coming in and like creating so much traffic
That's,
and
that's everywhere. Nevada.
yeah,
Every time we see like a
yeah,
California license plate, we're just like freaking California.
come on, yeah.
No, but
Uh,
that's cool though.
that's funny,
I
but it
know,
was
I
a
know
great place
Boise's,
to
Boise's a
grow up.
growing, yeah,
Yeah,
Boise's a
it's I mean
growing
it's the
city.
largest it's the largest city in Boise, and it's really starting to take off. It's a beautiful spot, and everybody there is just super kind, nice, cares about each other.
Hmm.
It's a great place. It really is, and it will always have a special place in my heart for sure.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks for sharing, man. What got you
Yeah.
inspired by doing like video? Like, what did you see in your vision when you were, you know, aspiring to get into the video industry?
Well, starting out in I'll take it back to high school. That I was just always kind of drawn to the visual arts. My brother had been into photography and stuff, so he paved the way for me to start being interested in it. And I started taking some like video tech classes, and mind you, that I was like 13, 14 at the time when I started to like have the option to choose classes in high school. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, let me just like do the easiest thing, right? Like, let me do what the most lackadaisical kind of easy class, like low maintenance thing I can possibly do. So I took like video tech classes where we would do like broadcasting the morning announcements and stuff like that, and just kind of we just learn the ins and outs of video editing and production, and um, started to do that. And then it wasn't even until after I graduated from high school and was starting to go to college that I like bought my first camera after seeing, and this was really a pivotal point for me. I don't know if you're a snowboarder, but there's a movie called Art of Flight that was really just it kind of it broke all other extreme sports movies. It was really ahead of its time as far as it was just way out there as far as what these guys were doing, what they were pursuing, the cinematography of it. Like they have cameras mounted on helicopters, dive bombing, like just sheer faces of Alaskan mountains, like filming these
Mm-hmm.
snowboarders. And it is just an incredible movie. And I saw that, and the next day I bought my first camera. I was like, I have to get into this. This is incredible. So that really just blew my mind and really lit that spark that got me on the road of wanting to be visually creative and
Mm-hmm.
create things that other people would look at and be like, wow, that is incredible. So, and that was seven, almost 8 years ago now. So bought my first camera then, and I've been doing it ever since. Was doing freelance photography out in Idaho, and it got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm making a decent amount of money. Dropped out of school and decided to move to California because I mean, what better place to get into video production
Mm-hmm.
than Los Angeles, you know? So
That's a pretty big move, and I tell a lot of people, especially people who stayed in like their small town, for their whole lives and they never experience anywhere else, like moving anywhere else or living away from their parents or their friends that they grew up with. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was for you, getting out your comfort zone, because that is where I believe the most growth happens. And when I left after high school to join the military, that whole period of time was like the most, I like couldn't even imagine how much a growth I would have being so far away from everyone and just being, you know, focused on myself and that part of my journey. So how was that moving to California? Because that's not too close from Idaho.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I hadn't even been to Southern California until probably 2015. So I was already well underway in college, and just like took one trip down here. And before I talk about moving to California, I want to take it back to what you were saying about like we are products of our environments. Like we really are. Like everything and everybody that we surround ourselves with influences who we are and the decisions that we make, I feel like. And as I was starting college, I met this group of photographers off of Instagram, and they lived in like the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. Somebody was in Alberta, and we all like met up in Portland, in Oregon, and going on like road trips and meeting these new people and kind of just exploring really gave me the perspective when I went back to school, after going on like a road trip for a week, going back to school in Idaho and going back to my job, really having that perspective, seeing the type of person that I was and how happy I was being creative and meeting new people and getting outside of my comfort zone, doing things and seeing things that I hadn't done before. And then coming back to this societal norm and something that my parents had always told me I needed to do is go to college and things like that. Really paying attention to who I was and how that made me feel, I feel like set me up to be able to make the decision to move to California, to just drop everything. Cause man, I dropped everything. I loaded up my car. It was a 1996 Volkswagen Jetta, stick shift, loaded it up with everything I owned, and I drove it 18 hours to California. That was a slow ride. We were low riding, dude. But
that's awesome, man.
I think that's something very important that a lot of people should pay attention to, is that we are products of our environments. And if you look at the person that you are and the decisions that you're making and the people you're spending your time with, and I think it's Jim Rohn that said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you can take a look at that and look at that objectively, take your ego out of it and look at who you're spending your time with, the activities you're doing, and maybe your job or your school, whatever it is, whatever you find yourself doing the most, if it's not making you happy and you're not, you know that you are greater or meant for something greater than what you're currently doing, I think you're on the right track.
For sure, man. And I commend you, because like so many people I know that had some type of dream or goal and never acted on it, but you noticed you loved, you know, videography and photography, and you put the fact that LA and South California is one of the best places to be, to just put yourself in that environment where you can surround yourself with more people, common mentality, common love for videography, and you just dropped everything and left. So that says a lot about you chasing what you want, and you were so determined to leave Idaho, drive 18 hours and start a whole new journey. So that's awesome, man. And I'm definitely proud of you for doing that, because I'm sure you grew a lot on that whole journey, and grew a lot more than you would even think, I imagine, because you can't really predict how something like that's going to be. You have a vision in your mind, but as soon as you probably got to California, it probably started changing up on you.
It definitely kept me on my toes, and it's not like it was an easy thing to do mentally. It was scary, man. Like I had a job set up for me. I was working at a restaurant at the time, and I just transferred over to a location in Southern California, and that's all I had planned and lined up, really. So it was a major leap, but I couldn't imagine my life any other way. Sometimes you gotta jump and figure it out on the way down.
For sure, man. Just go for it.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
when you were doing videography and photography, what was like the pivotal point in where you realized you weren't truly fulfilled? Or if you are truly fulfilled, I might have it wrong, but if you, or you want to take your skills in videography and, channel that towards something else with
Mm-hmm.
health and wellness and mindset, when did you notice that you wanted to do more with yourself?
So there was definitely a point, and this was, I want to say 2018, and I was working at at an aerial cinematography company full time, and we got this job with Honda, um, and it was 7 days, I think 7 days straight of night shoots. So it was 5 p.m. and more often than not, it was way before 5 p.m. prepping out stuff, making sure all the gear is ready, make sure we have everything, because when you're flying heavy lift drones, there are thousands of moving pieces, and you need to make sure that you've got everything dialed in. So oftentimes we'd be working like 13, 14, 15-hour days. And we just had this week straight of night shoots from 5 p.m., let's say, until like 7 a.m. when the sun rose. And going through that week just drained me physically, mentally, emotionally. It was rough. And after that, it was halfway through that week that I took a look at how I was feeling, really just like took a seat and tuned into how I was feeling. I was like, man, this is not it. This is not it at all. You're sacrificing your mental health, your physical health, not eating well for what? For a check. And you're not impacting anybody. And that's always been huge for me. Like I I've always wanted to make an impact on people,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted and I think this is everybody, like I want to feel like I'm living with purpose, and I wasn't feeling that at all doing
Mm-hmm.
shooting these commercials and things like that. So it really helped me put into perspective what was important to me, which is health, which is my health, which is my mental health, my spiritual health, physical health, um, mental health. And it really just drove home for me that that is one of the most important things in my life, and really helped me to focus on making that a top priority in my life.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. I had a very similar experience when I was in the military, just draining, working so long, and it made me really reflect, like, what do I really want to do? And it's not the fact that you couldn't do it, right? You were probably, very successful. You're really good at it. You're creative. And I think that's really important for people to understand. It's not the fact that you can't deal with it, because you can, but for what? What is the outcome? Because even if you deal with something and it really is stressing you in a certain way, that chronic stress has way more detriment to your well-being, your mental health, your physical health, right? Having stress hormones constantly flowing through your body, which was me in the military, even though I was, I was having a good career, right? I was succeeding in everything, but I was still having that.
There's a disconnect for sure.
Mm-hmm. A disconnect. So a lot of times people would just deal with it, deal with what they're doing, deal with their jobs, even though they hate it. And you could do that, but what kind of quality of life,
Exactly. And I
So
mean,
that's
like
important.
that's the easy thing to do, is to just throw your hands up and say, hey, like this is what it is. Like, this is what life has given me, this is what's happening to me. And it's that victim mentality, really, instead of taking responsibility for your life and recognizing that you have a choice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to pay attention to how you're feeling, and yeah, pay attention to how you're feeling. I mean, that's really it. Just listen to your intuition, and if like you're not liking what you're doing, if you're not liking your job, nobody's making you stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have a choice. We have a choice every single day.
Mm-hmm. And that's a tough part too, because we think, you know, paying attention to how we're feeling, we might confuse that with just distracting ourselves with short-term pleasures, right? After a long,
Mm-hmm.
crappy day at work, we're going to go watch TV and try to forget about everything. And that really just masks how we feel. And we're not actually dealing with the root of the problem. So I think that's a big thing. And that's awesome that you noticed it. You actually listened to how your body, and you knew there was going to be more, right? This wasn't what, you know, that full connection to life and passion felt like. And there still
Absolutely.
might be more. You could take all that skill that you learned and apply that to, you know, something that makes you feel more fulfilled. So
100%. And I think that just goes back into the looking at life as things happening for you. I don't look at any of that time as wasted time. I learned so much and I grew so much through that. My interpersonal skills, leadership skills, just learning how to operate in production, which I still plan on being a part of that industry. But yeah.
that's a good perspective though, because some people might have experience, you know, you left Idaho, you start a whole new life and journey, and it didn't quite end up the way you thought it was going to be. And you could have been like, wow, I made a huge mistake. You know, this is stupid. Like, you could beat yourself up for it, or you could do what you did. And it's like, no, I didn't regret any of that. That was all, you know, just setting me up to understand more of what I want. And it was all a learning experience. So that's another big key, is perspective on your experiences as something you can learn from, or something you can just complain about and just be mad about, right? And then, you know, which one's really going to progress you further to being happy, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to add on to that as well, looking at it as like a growing experience more than just like things are happening to you. Working that, and I'm sure that you working in the military and being in a submarine experience this desire to maximize your time as well, because you know that 40 plus hours of your week are already allotted to somebody else. And I'm definitely trying to get 8 hours of sleep a night. So say you've only got about 70 hours to yourself. I'm definitely trying to optimize my mornings. So while I was working at that job, I was waking up super early so that I could start my day right, so that I could prepare myself to go into that job. I was starting to meditate, starting to read and write in the morning, and really just take time for myself to make sure that I wasn't just spending all of my time, my focus, my energy at this job, really giving myself the time that I needed to feel like I was loving myself, really.
Mm-hmm. That's important. I just heard Jay Shetty talk about like morning routines, and he was saying it's like putting armor on, right? But that morning routine is just like putting your armor on to protect you from the rest of the day, so you don't lose yourself, you know, in all the tasks and all the different energies pulling you around, or marketing, or whatever the case, whatever you're gonna deal with for the day. You know, that morning time is for you to, you know, love yourself, protect yourself, and just be centered, so you're not, you know, out of place the whole day.
Centered. Yeah.
So
That's how I look at my morning ritual, is just a time to start my day right, to really get in alignment with my values, my principles, and my purpose, and just have that in mind for the rest of the day. Because when you've got that at the back of your mind, you don't necessarily need to be thinking about it all the time. You don't need to be repeating it in your head. But when you start your day like that, and you're centered and you're aligned with that purpose, that goal, that overarching mission, or connected to that energy source that you are, makes it so, or you got that armor on, it makes it so much harder to be swayed or perturbed by any random event. Somebody's yelling at you, somebody cuts you off, anything, those tiny little just fractions of a second of moments that happen to everybody on a daily basis, dude. You can deal with those and let them in and release them, let them go,
Mm-hmm.
just like that, and keep your peace of mind.
No, for sure. And you said about your morning ritual. Tell us about your morning ritual, because there's so many recommendations out there. Like there's books about morning, you know, having a good morning, like Hal Elrod's book, which is really good. Uh,
Yeah.
like what do you do to get yourself, uh, you know, ready for all the rest of the stuff that's you're going to face throughout
Yeah,
the day?
yeah, for the battlefield of the day.
Yeah.
um so let me preface this by saying I think it's important to go into looking to set up your morning ritual with the intention of finding what works best for you,
Mm-hmm.
because no morning ritual is going to be the same for everybody. Everybody is going to be different, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the whirlpool of and ultimately negative thoughts because you're not doing something right when there is no right way to do a morning
Mm-hmm.
ritual or start your day. So many
Love
people
that.
look at all of these morning rituals that people are putting out, and they beat themselves up because they're not hitting it on the head and they're not feeling great because they're doing it, things like that. So I just want to stress the importance of really being intentional about finding what
Mm-hmm.
works best for you. Find what works best for you. And it's taken me a long time to, and it's still fluctuating. It always fluctuates based on how I'm feeling and what I've got going on in the day. But typically I like to get up anywhere from 5 to 5:30. Sometimes it's 6. Don't beat myself up about that though when it happens. But if I'm on, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I immediately meditate for either 30 minutes or an hour. After that, I like to hit a book, read like 5 to 10 pages or 20, depending on how I'm feeling. Again, just whatever feels right. And then I like to get in a little bit of writing, do some gratitude journaling, just get in that frequency of gratitude and looking at my life as an observer and really just letting go a lot of emotional attachment to things and really seeing my life for what it is and all that I have. Like I woke up and I am able to pass air in and out of my lungs. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That is, I get another chance at this. This is sweet. So like
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get into that state of gratitude, that vibrational frequency of love is one of the most powerful things you can do in the morning, and that's something that I recommend to everybody. Start a gratitude journal. It might sound floofy or woo woo whatever, but it's for everybody. And if you start doing it, you will soon find that your entire day is transformed because of it, and your mindset about the day. Because once you get in that frequency of abundance, like I have
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff, you get out of this mindset of lack or I need or I want or I'll be happy when I have something. And that's one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your morning ritual, is to immediately just access that abundance frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I like to make my bed. That's huge. Just kind of clean up my space,
Mm-hmm.
honor myself. Because I feel like I owe it to my parents. They told me for the longest time, make your bed. But I never really, I was just like, it's just gonna get messed up. But now that I live alone, and I just like to have things nice and tidy and
Mm-hmm.
clean, and it's nice to have a fixed bed. And then I like to either hydrate or get some movement in. I've really been looking into qigong and just like getting some energy flowing through the body, either that or do a little bit of yoga. But that's my
Dude, that
typical morning routine.
sounds solid. And I definitely want to just hit back on, it's not the same for everyone. There's no right way to do that. And I got, caught up in that too, because like I felt like I wasn't doing, the meditation the right way, and I wasn't doing it in the right order or whatever. And I was like, now it wasn't becoming helpful. It was having the opposite effect, because I was, having this expectation of what I should feel like or should do, and I wasn't meeting that. And I was, just starting my day off disappointed because like
Yeah,
I didn't do it right. But there is no right way, and it's about finding that what feels best. and feels right for you. And
again,
again, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that like this has been and will forever be just a constant changing process of like finding what works for you. Like I have certainly been in that same mode of like getting down on myself and being hard on myself because I didn't do something the right way. And if I didn't start my morning right or at the right time, then I beat myself up and think about all of the time that I lost. Great way to start the day. You really just need to meet yourself where you are and practice non-judgment as much as possible.
Yeah, and honestly, but also, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No worries. And also pay attention to those thoughts when they come up. It's like, where are those coming from?
Right. And I think one of the best things that I've been doing more recently is yoga, because that really teaches you to accept where you are, because there's always going to be someone in the yoga room way more flexible than you. You know, they're going to have a more, perfect stance. They're going to be more connected. And it's about taking yourself away from everyone else and just focusing on you and accepting where you're at that point, like where your flexibility is, and just honing that and just keep practicing. Because I remember the first time I did yoga, man, I was expecting it to be like nice and relaxing. And I'm here like sweating, like breathing hard and don't know what I'm doing, all stiff.
Places are hurting.
Everything hurt. I don't know. Yeah. That coach whooped us. But dude, yoga's a great teacher for that. And then you start noticing that in other areas of your life, that more of acceptance of where you're at. And it's okay where you're at. And you're just trying to get a little bit better. And which is good for me, because I've been, struggling with perfectionism and trying to do everything perfect. And yoga, I'm trying to do all these poses so perfectly, to the fact that I'm like defeating the purpose of yoga, because it's not even about that. Like I wasn't breathing, I wasn't like connecting, I wasn't even thinking about any of that. I was just like, I need to do this perfect. I'm like watching the instructor the whole time to see, every movement, like, and it's not even about that. And life's not even about perfecting it. It's about enjoying the journey and being okay where you're at right now.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have articulated that any better.
That's good, man. And so what was like the biggest struggle in getting you started with the morning routine? Because like obviously it's good to wake up earlier and like get your mind right, be in a grateful vibration. But I struggled. I still struggle with my morning routine. So like what was like your biggest struggle, and just having that consistency and not doing it like once a month or something like that?
Yeah. Probably, and the words are this, it might be a quote from somewhere. I heard this somewhere, and I was just talking to another friend about this the other day. Your morning starts the night before. So there's no way you're getting up at 5 a.m. if you're going to bed at 1:30 or 2 a.m. And if your goal is to wake up early so that you can really take that time for yourself and get a lot of your non-negotiables out of the way before you got to start your day, go to work, things like that, you really need to be intentional about when you're going to sleep. Your rest period is huge. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, especially coming from a freelancing creative field where so many people are night owls, and they're spending their time face pressed against a computer screen, editing video, editing photos on Instagram, things like that. You really got to take into account that you can't be intentional with your morning ritual if you don't have a succinct or even a plan for your evening ritual. Got to have that turn down period where you're thinking about, okay, well, it's 11 o'clock and my morning rituals, that's important to me. So I'm gonna shut the phone off and put that away, computer off. I'm not going to pass out on the couch here with Netflix going. I'm going to crawl into bed, get the 6.5 hours of sleep that I can get now, and get up and get after it.
Gotcha, man.
So
That's
I think that
beautiful.
that was my, I think
Yeah.
that was the biggest struggle, is accepting that I wasn't a night owl, that I couldn't stay up till 12 or 1
Mhm.
a.m. because I spent so long doing that in high school, in college, and out of college. And it takes it's a shift. It's a major shift, and it's not an easy thing to do, but you just got to decide like what are your non-negotiables. That's really
Mhm.
what it comes down to: your values and your non-negotiables. Like, what are you willing to not compromise on? And
Right.
starting my day right and getting my morning rituals done, that's that's huge for me. So
Mhm.
that made it a lot easier. Definitely. Maybe not,
Right.
maybe easy is not the right word, but it definitely helped
Yeah, for
think
sure.
about it in
And
that way.
I think a lot of people, even myself, when we are up late, it's usually not for a productive reason at all. It's like you're
Yeah,
out here
right.
till like
What are
one
you
in the
doing?
morning. Yeah, what are you
Yeah,
really accomplishing in the
yeah, and
late of the day like that?
exactly. Yeah,
So,
and that that just plays back into that intentionality, like looking at the. It's okay that you're doing that, but just take a second and look at the actions you're taking and the things that you're doing. Are they are you doing them out of a place of intention, or are you just kind of like just mindlessly doing
mhm,
things?
exactly, and just autopilot, or at least if you're doing it, you should at least acknowledge and be aware and
Exactly.
understand how it's affecting you
Yeah.
the next day or
Yeah.
for your
Don't
morning.
say, "Oh no, I can't do it because like I just can't get to sleep."
Hmm.
No, like you have a choice. You have a choice.
For sure. Or just saying I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
I'm the human. I'm part of the humans that don't have a
Yeah.
circadian rhythm or whatever.
Yeah. Right. And I thought about. I thought I was a night owl for the longest time, but I'm starting to believe that that's just not
Hmm.
a real thing.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know that humans are
conditioned.
meant to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like by nature we're
Absolutely.
not. So we're supposed to tone down when it gets dark, and we
Yeah.
get more energy when the sun's up. But
Yeah.
then we condition ourselves just over repetition and
Yeah.
habits, and then we start believing that we operate better at night, and then it becomes our reality. But then what I noticed with my friends who say they're night owls or whatever, they usually don't have any healthy physical habits as well. They're not
Mhm.
necessarily in great shape, or they're not eating the best, or they're not doing those things to take care of their body. So, with that, I know you're extremely healthy, running like 6 minute miles and just being super cut up and healthy. Tell us a little bit about how, or when did you really start taking a strong focus into your body, or noticing, the difference in your health?
Well, I would say it started really with looking at the things I was eating and how they were making me feel. One of my roommates that I moved into my apartment with in Los Angeles, I just noticed one day, and it wasn't that hard to notice because he's got just this very strange, we'll call it a strange diet that he eats, and that's I started asking him. I'm like, why do you eat these things, and how do you know that you're like sensitive or intolerant to these things? Just this whole list of like gluten, soy, eggs, and things like that. And he's just like, yeah, I mean, like I've just like eaten these things and they have like a major effect on my body. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I should probably actually start paying attention to the way the things I'm putting in my body make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, I mean, since that point, probably 2 or 3 years ago, because I wasn't the healthiest person. I was still like drinking milk, and there was another point too where I eaten a really spicy Thai chili and like just grabbed the first thing in the refrigerator, which was a jug of whole milk, and started drinking it, downing it. And I kid you not, like 10 minutes later, I started to get that itch in the back of my throat that everybody associates with getting sick. And lo and behold, like an hour later, started like getting postnasal drip, was super congested, and I was sick for the next like 4 or 5 days. So I immediately cut milk out after that. And like having those two occurrences happen really, really hit home for me that I needed to start paying attention to the things that I'm putting in my body. And since that point, I've just really tried to cut out all processed food, refined sugar. And this is coming from, and like artificial coloring and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from a guy who spent years 10 through 20 drinking Mountain Dew, Baja Blast, playing video games and being sedentary all weekend, just eating Sour Patch Kids and Sour Belts and all of this synthetic garbage, literal garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel very blessed that I look the way that I do now and have the capability to look this way and move the way that I can. But I'm just amazed that I don't have any underlying health issues that I know of from how I was treating my body previously. And having that perspective too, like seeing how I was treating this vessel, this one machine, this bio machine that I have, and how I was feeling to now, and having the perspective of putting nothing but clean, trying to eat nothing but organic, and limiting my meat products and dairy products, and really just sticking to vegetables, primarily plant-based, eat fish and some white meat every blue moon. It's been 5 months since I've had meat products. Just starting to pay attention to the way your body feels after you eat something. Really tuning into your body is huge, and it's a game changer. Nice.
And I want to hit back on Thai chilies. You know, Thai food, they don't mess around with their spice.
They don't play, man. I don't cry a lot when I eat food if it's really good, or if it's Thai food and it's just really spicy.
Dude, Thai food makes me sweat every time.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I'm getting like a 4 out of 10 in spiciness. I'm still sweating. I don't know if it's just me or they just don't. Their spice is just ridiculous. But I
wouldn't have it any other way though, man.
Yeah.
I love Thai food.
Dude, I love it. It's my favorite food. Dude, a lot of that is just awareness. It seems like, being aware. And I noticed that too when I cut out all dairy and meat products. Like I started feeling completely different, and it's like I noticed my body I never felt what like true health could feel like. Right. Until I stopped, and it was just like, I feel like an elevated energy. And it's just like, I didn't even want to go back to eating that stuff. Cause like I associated it with how sluggish I felt. And the hard thing is like, we're sluggish and don't even realize how much, energy is being taken up by the food we're eating, or how sluggish we are. Cause we're always sluggish, because we're always eating the same type of things until you stop and like really be aware and take that audit of how you feel. You start noticing your energy is just way different,
100%.
And that's big. It's big just for people who don't eat plant-based or primarily plant-based, or just eat dairy and everything and meat all the time. Like, just try it out. Try not to eat that stuff and eat natural food that wasn't packaged in plastic or whatever, like vegetables. And then see your body. Like that did enough. I was convinced by that. Obviously I did a lot of research when I cut it off and just wanted to do it. But once I did it, it was just, I felt so good. I was just like, yeah, I don't even need to go back.
Did you try a bunch of like the different like, let's call them fad diets, or just diets like keto or pescatarian? Did you try any of those just to see what kind of worked?
No, I never tried I didn't agree with the keto diet, honestly. It didn't make sense to eat, a bunch of saturated fat. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like I knew enough from studying heart disease that diet particularly or at least the ones that I was being, shown from people, like eating as much bacon and cheese as you want and calling that like keto. I was like, dude, that's still not good for you. Like if you're going to eat
Yeah.
fat and be on keto, like there's still a very specific way you could do it. But I did read a book called The Warrior Diet, which was primarily plant-based diet. But I think the biggest factor was the fasting, intermittent fasting. So that the warrior diet was obviously eating more like natural, right? Not processed. He didn't say like not to eat dairy or meat or anything, but just really smaller portions of that and just eating more vegetables, but eating like once a day. And that was like the goal of like fasting 24 hours or 20 to 24 hours, which fasting I think is amazing. And I've noticed it do amazing things for me and just for other people who like for losing weight and all that kind of stuff. I actually recorded a podcast on intermittent fasting alone because like I believe so deeply in fasting. I think the human body wasn't designed to eat as much as we eat, right? We're told we need to eat 3 meals a day or 5 meals a day, whatever. That's simply not true. And then we wonder why we're like the most obese country in the world, because we're fed all this BS about how much we're supposed to eat. We're supposed to drink a glass of milk per meal or whatever. It's like the standard. And we just keep getting bigger and bigger and unhealthier and more disease and more all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of what led me into it, was just seeing family members have all these health issues with like heart disease and diabetes and all those things. And it was just like, I don't want to go down that path. Let me break that cycle now.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah. And I will second that. The intermittent fasting has been absolutely huge. Like it's definitely a game changer, and more than like a food thing. It's a very like personal, mental, and I think spiritual thing as well, because when you're able to take a step back and really take stock of your eating habits objectively, like if you do try a 72-hour fast and pay attention to the thoughts that come up while you're doing that, because I guarantee you're going to be thinking about food a lot, and then you're going to think to yourself, why am I thinking about food so much? Do I always think about food this much? How much time could I save if I wasn't thinking about food this much, and thinking about how, like, where you're going to get food, how much money the food's going to cost, if you're going to go out, do you have to drive to get there? Like, so I realized I spend so much of my day thinking about food and cooking food and going to get food and spending money on food. So that's why I don't eat until like 1 p.m. most days. I just feel very clear-headed, and a lot of that energy that's spent thinking about food and then the body digesting food, if you're eating early in the morning, you can allocate that to other things. And I feel like it's just made me a lot sharper mentally and given me a lot more clarity until mid to late in the afternoon.
Yeah, I noticed that too when I was like doing those like even the 20-hour, 18-hour fast. You start thinking like, I'm not even hungry, but like how much do you eat when you're not even hungry? Just because the food is there, it's in front of you, it's available, exactly. It's so easy. Or you just like drive by somewhere and you're just like, that sounds good. Like you're just eating, just eating just to eat. No real purpose, no real intention behind it. And I think intermittent fasting just ties into having intention, because if you can have intention with what you eat, you'll be more intentional with what you watch, what you listen to, what everything else, who you talk to, the environment you're in, making your bed,
how you spend your energy.
That's awesome though. Thanks for sharing that. I want to just ask a couple more things as we wind down. But what are like some of the best resources or any resource that's helped you in making these discoveries, or just helping you on your journey of just improving your mindset, improving your health? They could be anything, like movies you watch, videos, podcasts, books, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the internet's huge. YouTube is great. If you have a thought for something that you want to work on about yourself, you hop on this thing called google.com. Like literally just get on Google and search for it. There are thousands of people, millions even, talking about it and putting their ideas and thoughts and their experience out there about a lot of these things, like morning rituals, intermittent fasting. If you're curious about any of it, man, just take the initiative and look it up. But I would say that some of my favorite things that have really helped me to just feel like I'm really feel like I'm moving forward and actually like making strides in my growth have been podcasts, certainly books. And I think thinking about books in that same mindset of you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and podcasts as well. And we had spoke about this earlier as well. A book is somebody's like fullness, like their full expression of who they are and their experience and what they believe in has been put into this thing that is now either on your phone for you to listen to, read, or a physical copy in your hand for you to go through. That is a glimpse into their mind and the way that they think. So if you can look at it like that and you are committed to your growth and you value somebody's opinion and experience, I think books are one of the most valuable resources and tools that a lot of people can get their hands on for the development of their growth. And I mean, a lot of people maybe there's not so much of a stigma anymore about like self-help books and self-development books. But when I started thinking about like, okay, like I feel like I'm meant for something greater, and I feel like there's more to life than just like wake up, go to work, pay bills, go to sleep, like type of deal. I feel like a lot of people kind of looked at me reading self-help books and are like, what's wrong with the life you have right now? Like, you know, but I think that we're seeing a major shift in that, and it's becoming a lot more acceptable. But I feel like most of the books I read are like experiential, self-development or spiritual, or like fitness, nutrition books, just things with just facts, with information, that I can apply to my own life. And I think that has been one of the most helpful things. Absolutely. And a book that I would recommend that really, I feel like catapulted me was the book, I think it was Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, or Tribe of Mentors, I believe it was. And I love Tim Ferriss. That dude never fails, whether it's a 5-minute video or just a little excerpt from one of his books, never fails to just like get me fired up about like becoming the best version of myself, becoming who I know I am capable of being, and putting that out into the world. So I'd highly recommend that book. He interviewed like 500 CEOs, like just masters in their fields, and just asked them all just a general list of questions. And there's so much value and so much information that you can pull out of that book. So many book recommendations from CEOs. If somebody that started a Fortune 500 company, or somebody who is in charge of a company, recommends a book on any topic, I immediately am like, okay, let me check that out. There's probably something to that, or at least a grain of knowledge that I can pull out of that book.
That's usually how my lists grow. When I'm listening to somebody or reading some book, and they mention a book that changed their lives, and I'm reading their book because they're changing my life. I'm like, well, that has to be a good book, right? Well, it shaped his mind, that now he's shaping my or his or her. But yeah, Tim Ferriss is amazing, man. And both of those books, it's awesome because like he didn't make up any of that stuff. He sought that information for successful people, healthy people, and the best of experts he could find. And he compiled a great book based off their experiences, right? He wasn't here trying to figure it all out himself. And that's kind of, I think, an important thing that I learned from Tim Ferriss was, learning from the Titans and having mentors and just learning from the people who are happy and who are successful, who are healthy, right? If they're super healthy, they're doing something right. If they're really happy, they're doing something right. And not Instagram happy, like truly, peace. And that, having that peace, and that, it doesn't matter what people think, it's not about social media. It's how can I be truly happy? So definitely books, I think, are the most valuable thing anyone could get. And I've been in the audiobooks now, just because like I could get through them faster and like re-listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely all kinds of great people put all their best ideas and experiences into a book. Really, they took all the invisible and made it visible on paper or in audio for us to,
Exactly.
you know,
For you,
yeah,
this, for you watching this.
yeah, and it's like super cheap too. Like,
Yeah.
you could get one book, change your whole life for like $10.
Yeah, and I'm gonna recommend a book to anybody watching this. If you haven't read The Untethered Soul by Michael Allen Singer, definitely check that out. You can find a copy for, I think, $16 to $18, and it will completely shift your perspective on your relationship with yourself and your thoughts. And it is an absolute life changer. So $16, best investment in your growth you will ever make. I truly believe that.
I'm on my my third listen of that right now, actually.
Dude, it's
awesome.
It's a powerful one. I lent a copy to a friend, and I really wanted to read it again, so I just bought another copy. It's in the mail right now.
Dude, that book, even on this third time around, I'm like listening to it, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't even notice that part in like the first 2 times I listened to it. So that's definitely a book. And there's so many books that have the same effect. Every single time you read it, you're going to get more and more out of it. You know, and that's the thing with great books, because as you evolve, you'll be able to take more from books and other resources like that. So thanks for that, man. Thanks for that recommendation. Yeah, everybody get Untethered Soul, because that book is a game changer for sure.
Definitely.
So with that, great resources, great conversation on mind, body, health, man. I appreciate that. Is there any last bit of the best Brian Kimpson wisdom you can share with me and whoever's listening and watching?
Ooh,
the best you can get.
Yeah.
If you could summarize all your success and happiness in like one phrase or sentence or whatever, you can go longer if you need, but the best wisdom.
I'm tempted to go a lot longer.
Go ahead, do it.
how long are we at right now? Do you know?
I don't know. I didn't look at that time.
I
don't know.
I would say you gotta love yourself. You have to love yourself. Like, and that should be a top priority. Figuring out the areas that you're not showing up for yourself, or you're not necessarily happy with who you're being, and accept those, and you just got to show up for yourself unjudgmentally. And that's something that I realized while I was working full time at that job, working like 70-hour weeks sometimes, is I just completely gave my power away. I was not respecting myself, and realized that I didn't really know if I'd ever actually truly loved myself and was showing myself love. So I think, self-love is one of the most powerful things that you can do in your life, and really make that a priority, and set the intention every day to really just show up for yourself in whatever way that means for you. And maybe that's like a bath with some lit candles, or maybe that's like crushing a killer workout because you know that your body needed it, or you've just been having an off week and you needed to get some of those endorphins going. Like, whatever it is for you, find that, whether that's meditation or sitting down, read a book, or cooking yourself a nice meal. Just self-love is huge. And then I got one more. Cool. And this is something that I've really just started to integrate and focus on more recently, is make fun and play the goal. Like, life shouldn't be this serious journey where you just work all the time to get to some imaginary fantastical destination where you can do whatever you want. Like, the goal every day should just be to have fun. And to be able to have fun, you got to do work. Like, you have to do your work and you got to get it done. And when that work's done, put it down. Just put it down and focus on being in the present moment and really showing up for yourself and the people around you and just enjoying the fuck out of life.
Absolutely.
Like that's huge.
Yeah, that's becoming more apparent for me after reading Michael Singer's book. And I just finished his other one, The Surrender Experiment, which I think goes hand in hand with what you just said. You know, just enjoying life, surrendering, letting it flow, and being okay at what it is, man. Thank you so much. We can go on for hours, I know.
Yeah,
like, I could go all day like this, but we'll
have to at some point.
Yeah, it's so great to talk to you, man. Have that like-minded conversation that's deeper, right, than just what's going on the news, what's the last thing you watched on TV. You know, I got so much out of this conversation. I know everyone who listens to this or watches this is going to get so much out of it, and just having your perspective was awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you.
Thank you as well, bro. I appreciate you setting this up, and I appreciate that you're setting up this podcast to just have more conversations like this and need more mindful and more conscious conversations, people talking about their truths and talking about things that are actually important in the world. I feel like that's exactly what we need right now. So I appreciate you, and I want to acknowledge you for really stepping into that and bringing this out into the world, because a lot of people I think can benefit from it. And that's just not me toot my own horn, but I think a lot of people are going to
for sure, man. Thank you. I appreciate that
you come out with.
I appreciate that. And before we end this, I just want to give you a chance to share like where everyone can reach you at, the best platforms, and a little bit what's happening next for you, what the future looks like for you, what you're coaching, and just, you know, if anyone wants to get in touch with you for any health tips, mindset, coaching, one-on-ones, you know, how and where can they get in touch with you at?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the most active platform to reach me on, the place that I'm most active on and posting on, is going to be Instagram for sure. As I'm moving into coaching, doing one-on-ones with people, that's my bread and butter. That's what I'm focused on most, is to really just experiment there and dive deeper into my practice and my teaching style and what works best there. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, and I'm getting a website with a blog set up right now. I absolutely love to write, but I've never done it in a digital aspect really, other than like captions on Instagram and stuff. I write, man. I love to do it and dive deep, and just pour myself out there. So I'm getting a blog set up that I think is going to be really beneficial for people. So
that's awesome, man. I'll definitely share your stuff in the details and notes of this show, and you're a creative genius. So keep making those blogs and writing, and I look forward to seeing everything you're going to come out with. And again, I appreciate you. I'm grateful to have you on here, and I'm grateful for our friendship.
It was an absolute pleasure, man. I'm super grateful for you, truly.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Enjoy and go conquer today, man.
Yeah, you as well. Until the next one, brother.
All right. Take care, bro.
All right.
Bye. That is all for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you found any value in this episode, someone you know will also. Please share, subscribe, leave a rating and review so we can reach more people, have a farther ripple, and a larger impact. Stay grateful. I appreciate you. And remember, you are a conqueror.